Hello. Today I want to talk to you about a book I've read recently that was a little bit of a struggle and then ended up being a really solid finish. And that book is The Raven Scholar by I Cannot Remember. I did get an audio arc of this. The audiobook was really good. There's a couple of sound effects, like as you went into each part. There's 8 parts and the 8 parts mean something. Like, it's a nice little subtle touch, but not subtle touch once you actually get into the book. If you're new here, I'm Lady Reads, and I scream about books on the internet. Am I going to scream about this book? Not quite. It's not quite up there on my screaming scale. It's about here on my screaming scale. How to describe this book? A lot was put into this book. Like, a lot of stuff. So much plot as well, and like there are a couple of character moments going through this, but I think if you're mainly a character reader, this might not be a book for you. But if you love intricate plots and trials, like, I want to say like the Hunger Games, but everything is referred to the Hunger Games. This is a bit different. There are trials in this to basically become an emperor. That's kind of what happens, right? So the basic premise that I can kind of think to describe this would be a Raven Scholar discovers her rival has been murdered. She is tasked with discovering who killed her, but on top of that, she now has to take her place in the trials to see who becomes the next emperor. This isn't a murder mystery. It's not. It kind of made it sound like it is. And there is a murder mystery element to the story, but it's a very small element. It's like a tiny little bit of an element, right? Because the whole mystery side of it was kind of, everything kind of fell in their lap of kind of what's going to happen. But then, on top of, so the reason why I didn't mind that so much is because as the who killed this particular person falls into their lap, it reveals something else about somebody else in a position of power, and you're like, oh, this was why she died. I now have this information. Shit, am I going to be next? There was that little bit of tension, and then obviously you'll go, like, the main character, I thought it was Nina, and it's not, it's Neema, Neema, which for me, it just sounds like a weird name. I did kind of get used to it, but it just sounds weird. I also don't know if this is like a non-Western culture, because it's a bit subtle. So I need to do a bit more research on that, and I probably should have done before I started filming this, but I am filming this before work as per usual, so I didn't. Dumb. Because the way it works, you have the tiger, the fox, there's a dragon, the raven, there's 8 of them, the bear, the ox, I think. And they all take part in every 24 years. There's a trial to see who becomes the next emperor. They cannot be a direct descendant of the recent emperor, and they have to go through these trials and see who ends up becoming the next emperor of this place. And it's some politicking, some scheming kind of going on. So looking at it, I'm like, well, that's not really a Western thing, but it doesn't really scream like it's not Western, if you know what I mean. So I don't know if it was just inspiration taken from something else, or if it was generally somebody from a non-Western culture was like, I want to write this book, and they've just Westernized it a little bit. I don't know, but I did enjoy myself with this book. And like, it started off strong. Like, the first chapter wasn't from Neema's point of view, and it is technically a prologue, but it's not really described as a prologue, because you have the couple of chapters who aren't from Neema's point of view, and then you get to Neema and the same sort of timeline. So like the first 4 to 5 chapters, and then you go to where the story actually continues on, like years later. And so, but technically it would be classed as a prologue. So, but what happens is you have somebody's father, there was 2 twins, their father tried to take the throne, they failed, he died for it, and the emperor calls them like years after their father died to his side and said, oh, he's offered you this opportunity, and it was to the female version of the twins to compete in the trials. And she never really said she wanted it, but she was like, actually no, I do. And her brother was like, no, this has been his dream for so long, and basically ended up you know, the emperor said, okay, well, you're emperor, you decide what's happening, because it's either, you know, none of you compete in this, or you know, because she still has her father's colours, so there needs to be some kind of punishment going on here, all sorts of things going on. And, you know, and her brother ends up sending her to exile, which when you go to exile, you die. It's basically what happens. You go to this particular place, you get tied down to the floor, you just die. It's a slow death. And it's yeah, which was not fun, but I was like instantly intrigued, instantly hooked. I was like, that's where this started. Count me in. Then, you know, the story started building and building and building, and it was interesting, it was entertaining at times. I was buddy reading with Rebecca Nicole, who I will tag below. She bailed out. I don't blame her, because I was doing it slowly, and I think that's why I could continue doing it, because when I say doing it slowly, I didn't turn down my speed. No, my speed was still like 2.5, but what I was doing is I was listening to like snippets. So it took me about 3 weeks to read this book, and I didn't really have the urge to always go and pick it up, right? Not until like the last 40% of the book. So this is a big book. It's 800 pages. Like, my biggest critique is I do think this is a tad too long. But the way it works, it does subtly draw you in. So I think a lot of people will enjoy it and probably not notice its length. I definitely think there was a couple of bits, especially in the middle, that kind of dragged a little bit, and I can't really see a way that you could have cut it because of the story that's going on, because you've got the trials and the magistrate. Like, there's a lot going on in these books, a hell of a lot. So this is a multi-POV book, and it does slip very seamlessly in between each POV. So it's not like a chapter, it's kind of a little bit omniscient. Nima is the main POV, but then sometimes you'll get a sort of a snippet from the Raven, or from this particular love interest, or from this other contender for the throne, and you'll get like maybe a page from them, and then you'll go back to Nima, and it is done seamlessly and it's done well, and I don't often see it anymore, and I do kind of miss the omniscient a little bit, so it was kind of refreshing. But this story, I enjoyed Nima as a character. The one thing that did annoy me, and this is very early in the book, is there's always, because Nima comes from like a poor background, and everybody just hates her just because she comes from a poorer background, and I'm like, I hate that trope. I hate that trope. I hate the castness that you get with women, how everybody just doesn't like Nima, and I'm like, why? What is the reasoning for this, other than just to belittle Nima and to give her character a reason for acting how she's doing, because she wants to belong, right? Because she wants a friend. And it's yeah, I hated it. I hate that side of it. It just wasn't my kind of thing. But there was one little gripe. I did like the love interest. I loved how the magic system worked. So I liked how you can get a fragment of which part of the 8, which a raven is part of the 8. You can get a fragment of a raven, and you can kind of like take it in you, or stuff like this, or you have fragment of a fox. And the 8 have been disappeared, and like there's this whole prophecy kind of thing, but not like where people believe if you know the 8 have been called 7 times and they've saved the world, if they come back for the 8th they would destroy it, which is interesting enough. So the characters were strong, but as the book, it's a slow build of a book, right? I do think there were places things could have been cut or shortened that would have just, I don't know, kept my interest a bit more, because there was nothing where I was kind of like, I kind of want to pick it up. It was something that was interesting enough as I was reading it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it as I was reading it. But it wasn't like because usually when I do buddy reads, if I'm hooked, I'm going, see you later, guy. I'm bloozing through this book. But I didn't, and it was fine. It was a part of it is also because I am in an audio slump. I'm not in the mood to read audiobooks at the moment. Don't ask me why. I'm just not. I'm in a Critical Role binge at the moment, or history, weirdly enough. But on top of that, I'm just, yeah, it was fine. Like, the narrator was good, and like for most of it, things started to build up. But there was one moment, like after the last 40%, there was a moment between that. I think it was like 80% through the book. Something happened, and I remember just being like, holy fucking shit, I did not see that coming. Like, we all suspected something, but it was like He also went, you suspect this, but that's why I'm leading you in this direction. So you suspect this and you are blindsided to what actually is. And I was like, holy shit, the implication that has. And that's when I got really hooked onto the book. Like the last 40%, I was like, I need to read this. I just couldn't put it down. So yeah, it was a slow build to get into this book and to sort of like, because again, it's a big book. There's a lot in it, and you are trying to learn a lot about how everything works, how the trials work, there's a murder mystery, how the magic system works, how everything sort of is going on, how the politics and the scheming and the political side of everything is going on. It's all, you know, trying to introduce a lot of things. So it's a hard one. I cannot necessarily recommend if everybody would love it, but I did really, really enjoy it. It wasn't like the best book ever. I think there is some flaws to it. So I definitely think there's flaws, but it was entertaining as I was reading it. I don't know if I'd have a different experience if I was doing the eyeball read, for example, because my friend, I think, did do a couple, and she sent a couple of like snippets of it in our chat, and I was like, that doesn't sound like very good writing. But then on the audio, I didn't really pick that up because I was just having a fun time. Most of this book was me just having a fun time until like the last 40%, where I was like, oh my god, actually I'm really, really hooked on this. And like, the idea of this book is fascinating. I love the idea of the premise and what was going on with it. So many people are raving about this book, so I generally think a lot of people are going to like it. I just wouldn't go in expecting it's going to be absolutely incredible, because it's more of a slow build, and don't go in expecting a mystery, because that's a very, very small part of the book. And the trials as well, like if you're expecting something like the Hunger Games, you're probably not going to get that. There's certain things that come through with the trials, but it's very much like trying to find out the reasonings why this person was killed, but also, holy shit, I now have the information she had that she was killed for. What does that mean for my life, as well as this potential magic system, the 8 returning? There's, again, a lot was packed into this book. A lot was packed into it, and it does create this kind of hook because there's so much packed into it. But again, there is a big chunk that was just like a little bit of a like bogged down, but I did enjoy myself. And if this sounds entertaining to you, I do highly recommend you go try it. I do recommend the audio, because I did get a lovely audio from NetGalley, which, thank you so much, and the publisher. I need to do more research on this. I don't know who the publisher is, but I had a fun time. It's not something I think that will stick with me, but it is something that I am going to pick up the next book when it comes out, because of how it ended, because the last 40% was so good. And I always give the first book a bit of grace, because they're setting up what the series is going to be. So on that note, that's my review of The Raven Scholar, all my thoughts. Let me know if you are interested in reading this. If you've read it, are you going to pick it up? Or do you have anything that you think I might like that sounds similar to this? Drop in the comments down below. We'll talk about it. I will see you in the next one.